Welcome to Flipped Classroom. Today's lesson is on the elements of drama as we prepare to read Fences by August Wilson. Two terms are interchangeable, drama and a play. A play is intended for performance, whereas drama is intended to be read. And in a drama, the audience has its own interpretation of the drama, whereas a play represents the interpretation of the artist. And also in a drama, there's a direct interaction between the dramatist and the audience, whereas in a play, there's no direct interaction between the dramatist and the audience. Most dramas share a very similar structure to a short story. It begins with an exposition. That's where the characters are introduced, as well as the conflict. Then, complications are presented, and that's where tensions build. At the peak of the story is the climax. That is the point of the highest tension, where the action determines how the conflict will be resolved. And then the play will end with resolution. That is where the conflict is finally resolved. There are two main types of dramas. One is a tragedy, and one is a comedy. A tragedy usually ends unhappily. And most Greek tragedies deal with very serious universal themes, such as right and wrong, and justice and injustice, and life and death. And modern tragedies do as well. In many tragedies, focuses on human limitations against a larger force, such as destiny. In a tragedy, the protagonist is usually a tragic hero, meaning he or she is noble in many ways and very admirable, yet has a tragic flaw. Tragic flaw is a personal failing that leads to a tragic ending. In many classical tragedies, the tragic flaw would be pride or jealousy or rebelliousness. On the other end, we have comedies, and comedies end happily, and the plot often revolves around romantic conflict. Main characters in a comedy can be royalty or common folks, rich, poor, wise, the wide range of characters. And the complications usually occur before the conflict is resolved. In traditional comedy, the conclusion often ends in a wedding. More modern comedies focus on ordinary people's lives and their personal issues. It's very typical to see a movie that's a comedy where boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy wins girl. That's kind of the generic formula of a comedy. When looking at drama, the character speech may take any of the following forms. There's dialogue. That's when there's a conversation between the characters on the stage. There's a monologue. That's when there's a long speech given by one character to others. In a soliloquy, the speech by a character is alone on the stage by him or herself, speaking to the audience. In asides are remarks made to the audience or to another character, but the characters on stage do not hear this. There's other key terms to pay attention to when looking at a drama, and the first is a foil. And that's a character whose qualities or actions usually serve to emphasize the actions of qualities of the main character, the protagonist, by providing a strong contrast. And on occasion, the foil is used as a contrast to a character other than the main one. When reading Fences, take a close look at the relationship between Mr. Bono and Troy, since Bono is going to serve as the foil. Another key term is foreshadowing, and that's the use of hints or clues in a story to suggest what action is to come. And foreshadowing is frequently used to create interest and build suspense. When reading Fences, keep alert to Gabriel's warnings to Troy, because in many cases, those are foreshadowing Troy's future destiny. Other key terms are personification. Personification is a figure of speech in which an object, an abstract idea, or an animal is actually given human characteristics. And in Fences, you'll notice how death is personified. Also, there are symbols. And that's when an object, a person, or a place stands for something larger than itself, usually an idea or concept. Some concrete things will represent an abstract concept. In Fences, look at the actual fences, the physical creation of fences, and how those are symbolic of emotional fences that are created between characters and opportunities. Another key term is irony. And that's a perception of inconsistencies, and sometimes it's humorous, in which the significance and understanding of a statement or an event is changed by its context. For example, if a firehouse burns down, that's ironic. You wouldn't expect a firehouse to burn down. Dramatic irony is when the reader knows more about a character's situation than the character actually knows about him or herself. Or there's structural irony, and that's the use of when you have a naive hero, someone whose incorrect perceptions differ from the reader's correct one. And of course, there's verbal irony, and that's a discrepancy between what is said and what is really meant. And often that comes across in the form of sarcasm. When reading the play, pay close attention to how the physical fences actually are ironic. Think about what the purpose of a fence is and what these fences actually do. Another key term is theme, and that's the central or dominant idea behind the story. It's usually the most important aspect that emerges from how the text treats its subject. Often it's expressed indirectly and as an element that the reader must figure out. It tends to be a universal statement about humanity rather than a statement dealing with just plot or characters in the story. Authors and playwrights usually hint at it through different methods. They might use phrases or quotations that introduce the text. Maybe it's a recurring element. Sometimes it's an observation made that is reinforced through the plot or dialogue or characters. Keep in mind, not all works of literature have themes in them. But as a hint to you, Fences does have a theme. So focus on the concept of betrayal. So this is an introduction to drama and the play Fences. Thank you for joining me today in Flipped Classroom.